I'm going to show you how to take a small portion of your money and turn it into regular income and payments that pay you and grow exponentially over time. So what I did is I used $5,000 lump sum, and I'm going to turn this into reoccurring payments weekly and monthly that pay me for a very, very long time, hopefully the rest of my life. So how did I do this? What I did is I opened up a new brokerage account. The broker I chose is Interactive Brokers. And I moved in some money. I bought XDTE and I used this as my collateral to take out margin. Now, why did I use this specific asset and security? Why did I use Interactive Brokers? Well, not all brokerages are created equal. The margin rate on Interactive Brokers is very competitive. It varies with what kind of account that you have. If you have Pro, it'll be 5.8%. I have Light, and the rate they charge is 6.8% on the margin rate. Okay, so when that's basically your loan, right, and the interest that you have to pay back. The margin requirements, which I'll go over that in a bit, are also very low. So I like using this. If you live in countries outside the US, so for example, if you live in Southeast Asia, you live in Australia, you can use Interactive Brokers, also very important. Why did I choose XDTE? So I'm using this as my collateral. Think of this as collateral for the loan that I'm taking out, the margin that I'm taking out. All right, so XDTE is a pretty stable fund for a covered call fund based on the S&P 500. So it's going to be more stable than most securities out there, like single stocks, lower volatility. And it's hedged every week because they do option calls every day, and then you get premium or a payment that hedges every week in the case of a bear market, a downturn market. So that's very important. All right. So you can see the snapshot of this security that I decided to go with XDTE. Now, I took this a while ago when I first bought it. All right. So you can see the dividend is 48 cents. Now that can change, and it will change every week. Okay, so that fluctuates. This shows the ex-dividend date, or the upcoming ex-dividend date at that time. This was back in December. It was December 5th. So the ex-dividend date is a good time for the most part, as a general rule, to buy into the security because they take the distribution out and the price of the stock drops that day. It's Thursday. It's every Thursday, okay? So it's pretty easy to remember, but you can go to their website and look it up. All right, and the dividend yield. Now this also fluctuates, and what it is it's a ratio, right? So it's the ratio of the stock price to the distribution, and at this time it was 19.7%, pretty healthy distribution, right around 20%. Now this is very important, the margin requirements, right? So as a general rule, you want these numbers to be lower, right? And this is going to change with not just your security, but with your broker, so individual brokers. So your broker is very important. Always check the margin requirements before you do something like this. You don't want, as I would say, anything over 50%. You want to stay away from it. If it's 100%, do not even bother with it. You want to see, like this shows, down at 30%. That's a good margin requirement. And basically what that's saying is if your account drops below, this amount, or that security drops below this amount, then you're going to get margin called, and we want our money back. So you're going to have to sell everything at a loss. Right? And then, or come up with the money if you have the cash, like in another account. So anyway, that's a snapshot of XDTE and gives you an idea of kind of why I decided to use it as my collateral. What you want to do is you want to turn on drip. This is a snapshot of IBKR, or Interactive Brokers dividend reinvestment program. What you do is you go to the election and you turn on drip or reinvest for the ones that you want to basically compound and just buy more shares of. Okay, so I did that with my XDTE, as you can see. Oh, by the way, I lied. I bought initially like one share of AMZ. So the reason I did that is they just needed, I think it was 20 USD. So I just had to like quickly transfer 20 USD, and I just thought, well, I don't want to sit there in cash. I want to buy something. So I bought a share of AMZ, which is also a covered call fund that's fairly stable, both on drips. So those are snowballing. I'm getting more and more shares over time, and my collateral will grow over time. You could see what I did was I bought on margin MSTY, which is the MicroStrategy option fund. And that's going to pay me every month, and it's going to pay off the loan, the margin loan. Okay, so I have that set to receive cash. If it's to receive cash, it's going to pay off your loan automatically. And this is what you bought with the loan. So you're taking money that's not yours, buying an asset that pays itself off, and you profit. So I want to go over the numbers of Misty and show you what I'm talking about. All right. The margin rates, remember what I said, 6.8%. I believe that can be even lowered if you call them and try to negotiate, right? Everything's negotiable. So you can try to negotiate that down, whether they give it to you or not, you know, on an individual basis. I don't know, but you can try. Currently, MSTY's distribution rate is 110%. So the difference in those two numbers is huge, right? And you get to keep the profits, right, in that difference. And this is not something you bought with your money. Yeah, you put that initial capital into XDTE, but you didn't, you know, use your money to buy the Misty shares, right? And this is just cash flowing and paying for itself. So, yeah, and you might hear that number like 110%. That sounds really high. What the heck? Why is it so high? Well, this is a covered call fund, and they trade options on the most volatile stock in the stock market, MicroStrategy. So the volatility is really high, and that makes the premiums really high on it, which gives you a really big paycheck. All right. So now this is going to vary, and most people may not know this, but the distribution rate actually changes every day the market's open. And in fact, every few seconds it changes, because it's that ratio of stock price, which always changes, to the current distribution. All right. So this number is constantly changing. Next month, it might drop down to 90%. And then the month after that, it might go back up to 100. You don't know. So it's not going to be a set number, but it's going to be higher than 6.8%. I'll tell you that much. So you're going to have this big difference in margin rate and your distributions. This is what it looks like. So when you buy the security that you want with the margin loan to help pay for itself, it's going to show you your order has been filled. I put in a limit order for 30, and that was right around $1,000. I didn't want to have a really big number, you know, with that. I wanted to keep it, you know, kind of small. Don't want to have a huge amount of margin because I'm trying to avoid a margin call. All right, so the price back then, it was $34.21. Yeah, I could have waited, got a better price. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to get the ball rolling and get this distribution going and pay off this loan. But later, I bought another $1,000 worth on margin. And I will show you the holdings look like. Now, when you look at your account, you got everything set up, all right? You have your collateral. I have my 1.25 shares of AMZ. It's not going to grow very fast. You need more shares if you really want it to compound. And there's XDTE. I believe I initially had 96, so it's grown to 97.7. So accumulating shares and that base, that foundation is getting larger. In the future, I'll be able to use more margin to buy even more and to pay it off quicker. I did another $1,000 of MSTY to add to my position, and it's currently at 62.2 shares, okay? And you can see down here, cash holdings, okay? Well, it's negative, of course, because it's on margin, right? So this is what I owe, right? And this is the number that 6.8% is based off of, but it's going down, right? It's getting paid off by the MSTY. So it started out, I believe it was a little over 2,000, and it's down to 1,745. So I'm going to go ahead and pay this completely off, and then I'm going to start the process again. I may be able to buy more in the future. The next time I do it, maybe I'll bump that $1,000 up to 2,000 or 2,500, a number I decide to come up with. And the old shares of Misty will pay off the new loan also. So everything is just growing and getting bigger over time. Here's kind of a snapshot. It says dividend 0 because it's not considered a dividend. There's my buying power. Okay, that's how much margin is available. And then the maintenance margin. And then unrealized, so my shares have gone down because, as we know, MSTY has dropped in price. The price of Bitcoin coming down recently. But it's pretty stable. Like, I'm not concerned about a margin call. Settled cash, that is the amount you owe. So you might think, what's the catch here? This seems too good to be true. You're taking a small amount of money and you're turning it into income that grows and grows and grows, bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, what's the catch? Well, the catch is you are taking on risk. Okay, when you're doing margin like this, but you can mitigate your risk by choosing the right securities, getting in the right brokerage, and just being smart about it. You know, don't go crazy with the margin amount. If they say, hey, you know, you have $10,000 available, don't go all in with $10,000. Okay, don't get nuts with it. Keep it reasonable, be somewhat conservative, and avoid margin calls. Okay, margin calls are bad. You know, I see people on YouTube that they think that it's okay to just go all in on margin, and then they get these small margin calls and they think, oh, it's no big deal. It's just, you know, a few $100s or a few $1,000s and I pay up. But it's like, yeah, but not every margin call is made the same. All right. If there's a big market correction, like a 40% drop, you're going to get hurt because you're going to have to sell off everything at a big discount. And that's not what you want. Okay. Avoid margin calls. Be careful with this. Like, yes, it's a great way to, you know, take money that's not even yours and grow it into something that pays you, hopefully for a very long time, every single month, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get richer and richer and richer.